This is Dabu7. Some updated information here on this military movement around North Korea. What we have now are two Japanese Navy destroyers joining the USS Carl Vinson, and they are heading toward this Korean Peninsula. Now, this is said to be a massive show of force they're trying to put on as North Korea is preparing for this 85th anniversary of the foundation of its military. Now, the Japanese warship destroyers, the Ashigara and Samidare, left the Navy's Sasebo base early on Friday, where they're said to rendezvous with this USS Carl Vinson group off of North Korean shores. Now, the details of this joint U.S.-Japan naval exercise are yet to be determined. The drill comes as an apparent show of force aimed at deterring North Korea from pulling off another nuclear test or doing anything come the 25th. Now, this time frame, this window, we've talked about it. A lot of things going on here in the United States with drills, here off the coast of North Korea. They're saying that though little was known about this naval exercise, the event was announced by Japanese Navy earlier this week. Now, Japan wants to dispatch several destroyers as the Carl Vinson enters the East China Sea. Now, they're going to have helicopters landing on both American and Japanese ships, as well as communications training. Now, the American strike group includes this Nimitz-class aircraft carrier, USS Carl Vinson, which just had an incident yesterday near the Philippines where a pilot had to eject and crashed. So one of the F-18s off of that ship went in the ocean. We haven't got any updates on this. Now, there's a bunch of vessels here with this fleet. Now, if we go over here and we look at this map, you can see near the Philippines is where this incident happened. Now, the Carl Vinson has been making its way up toward the East China Sea, and now Japan is dispatched. As of Friday, they're looking to meet up somewhere here in the East China Sea. Now, we don't know what move they're going to make from here. We don't know if they're going to head on up into the Sea of Japan or if they will enter the Yellow Sea. Now, this is interesting because here you have Beijing, and China has been out here with their brand new destroyer, live firing missiles this past week, kind of warning North Korea themselves that you better chill out. Plus, they told them if anything happens in North Korea where any contamination blows back into China, China will respond with force. So, as of right now, China has been over here popping off rounds. Japan, U.S. ally, South Korea, has been over here. Russia has been skirting Japan and back and forth, skirting them, skirting the coast, and bringing a lot of supplies down here to this small border area with North Korea. I believe it's 11 miles or something they said. But this is where China, Russia, and North Korea all meet in this area. China has been sending troops to areas down through here, fearing of a massive refugee influx from what may happen in this area. Something's going to have to give. The way I see it, I don't see Kim Jong-un going to the bargaining table, so to speak, and they also just put out a staunch warning to China without calling out China by name, saying that they are backing the U.S. and that there's going to be harsh, catastrophic consequences for them doing so. So, that is an update here, and also to let it be known, Japan is in a unique position here. Since World War II, they are not allowed, since Hiroshima was dropped, they're not allowed to take an offensive. I'm not sure most people realize this. The way that Japan is structured, because of the deal after the war, they are not allowed, they have a defensive military posture, but they're not allowed to launch offensives by themselves. It's against all rules And they agreed to that a long time ago. But what they can do is they can help feed ammunition, send boats. They can do all the stuff rather than dropping bombs and firing shots to help allies if their country is threatened. And if North Korea is threatening to strike them with missiles, then yes, that is a part of that pact. They can help the U.S. And it doesn't mean that if they get struck, Japan can't counter with big bombs. They very well can. That would raise the eyebrows of both Russia, China, and everyone else in the region that knows Japan wasn't supposed to be making moves like that. But what do you do if you just get hit with a nuke from North Korea? Because that will be one of the first targets. South Korea, Japan. They've been launching their practice tests out here toward Japan, with some of them falling less than 100 miles away from the shoreline. That is how close they've come already. So this window getting smaller by the day here of when they're going to pull off the next test. Will they do it before the aircraft carriers and all the other big equipment get up in the region? It's yet to be seen. One would think at this point they would just back away and let things simmer down, let the dust settle, so to speak, and try to find a peaceful way out of this. But honestly, with China threatening to cut off oil, people scrambling to gas stations and everything else, if China was to cut off oil, that is when I think North Korea would be backed into a corner where they're either going to have to give up the nuclear ambitions and proceed with better things, or there's going to be some big moves made. Something's got to give. They can sit here and saber rattle all day, but I have a feeling that when this happens, it's going to come out of nowhere. I mean, everyone feels the tension, so it really won't be a huge surprise if it does happen, but I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of headlines as to they're mounted up here and they're making moves there and a warning has been given. I think that if a strike happens, it's going to happen. And they're going to say, we were watching them and they were making moves. They were getting ready to test or launch something. I've also listened to a lot of the generals, a lot of what a lot of them's had to say about North Korea as a whole. What happens once the first strikes are launched? They seem to think that you cannot pull this thing off successfully with the waves of refugees that are going to hit the borders and everything else. They seem to think you cannot pull this off without ground troops, without some sort of tactical units that are going in and making moves inside of North Korea. For all we know, could already be underway. You never know. And are Chinese, Russians all up in North Korea as well? You betcha. Not in mass, not where you're going to see big military equipment, but advisors, people that are connected to North Korea. Someone's in there. There's spies in there. Just put it that way. There's spies in there. But that is some of the latest. I wanted to kind of paint the picture there, updated with what all's going on, and let it be known that Japan is now sending out 2 destroyers, which is very interesting. This is going to be a big show force. It's also going to be a lot of military equipment and stuff in one spot at one time, which may not be the smartest move. Because if it was to all get wiped out, it's a huge loss. Then what do you send to the region to counter after that? Things to think about. I'd rather see these guys spread a little thinner. They're going to get out here and drape them maybe over the Sea of Japan, something of that nature, instead of one big group that one big blast can take them all out. Let's not forget what you're not seeing in this picture is what is underwater. And that right there is key. It will be, I believe, the subs and what they have underwater and in the air, out of sight. Super stealth. I'm talking, guys, come on. Come on now. We know this is the world stage, but we also know the 20, 30 years ahead of us with technology. They're now talking about really equipping our aircraft with these new laser cannons and everything else. 20, 30 years ahead of us. Imagine what they could pull out and they could use in a situation like this. People have no clue. And if they were to use it, would they even admit doing so? Things to think about. This may go down a little different than what people think. Nonetheless, that's the latest. I will leave links to continue to update with more as I come across it. Shoutouts to everyone out there that fights the fight. It's been Dabu 7.